moves, they're not hard to find. Strong arm tactics so loud, only themselves in mind. Every player has dreams of making ORCA fame. They'll live on in the minds of those who get in their way. ORCA's all say, don't come for me. Midners boots, they're so vain. As we set up the podcast webcam, the pod is here to talk ORCA game. ORCA King CK with delusions of fame. In this LRG world, he's the apex predator. Danny and Jules in tow, always ready to go. Now it's time for the show. They're the apex predators.
Hello and welcome to the ORCA Pod, the Apex Predators of Australian Survivor LRG podcasting, picking up on our second week of the third best LRG as was rated when we did the voting. Backyard Survivor, Redemption, Backyard Survivor 4. Last week we did our deep dive on the season. Next week I'll be doing a deep dive with the winner of the season, Salvador. Following that, we will have the tea party with Annabelle and a number of special guests to be announced. We locked them down. I'm just keeping it as a surprise. And then following that, we will, of course, reveal the winners of the awards. The voting is open. Go and vote now. Make sure you just vote for who you think should be the MVP, who you want to see play again, who was the best pre-merge boot. There's a lot of quality in that pre-merge boot vote. And, of course, give your contribution to who should be the ORCA of the season. Now, the fans' votes only count for one solitary vote in the Congress of the ORCAs, but have your say and be a part of the voting. We will reveal the results. We will crown the ORCA, and I will talk with Carl and Brian. That's in a number of weeks' time. Tonight, as part of the top 5 of this coverage, we have looked to do a special interview that really is some way connected to what was special and important about that season, or was otherwise important to our community. For Canberra season, for Backyard, For Backyard season 2, which was the 5th best season, I interviewed Keegan because Keegan's the only person to have played 3 times in this coverage, which is an incredible achievement. And it was good to feature him on his best game. For Sydney, I did a deep dive with the winner of Australian Survivor 1, Christy, who for some reason won Australia and then went on one of these one-day LRG games for fuck knows reason. But it was amazing to talk to her and hear about her experience playing the real deal for 50 days and then playing a one-day around Sydney Survivor. And now for a special interview with Redemption, I am so excited to be bringing on, in some ways, the namesake of the Redemption season, the 3 returning first boots from the prior Backyard seasons who came on to see how they would go a second time around. It was a concept of the season as well as Redemption Island, of course, but it was about their redemption and their return. It's going to be great to get their insights, not only on playing this season, but their prior seasons and the challenges that come with being first boots. Many of us watching live have played or want to play one of these LRGs. And I think it's everybody's fear that you would go on and you would be the first boot. And what is that feeling? What does that mean? How do you manage that? For Holly, it's particularly special how she was able to be resilient and recover on the day and thereafter. I spoke to Kyle before I put this together and I said, do you think Holly would be interested in coming and doing this sort of show? And Kyle said, Holly, he was impressed with her own resilience and resolve, that after that season, this season, she's continued to be an important part of the Backyard community after both season 2 and now season 4 and throughout. And she's just been, obviously, is a very special person. I love to hear that story. A lot of people, when they are the first boots on their seasons, choose not to even do any interviews. And that's perfectly understandable. It's a particularly challenging space. So I'm really excited to talk to all 3 of them about both their experiences and how they have perhaps found some redemption in this season, or otherwise their continued involvement in the backyard community, which I think they are also involved. So I'll be bringing them in, and of course, good morning, Zach Minger. I don't know, first time commenter, Zach, maybe not a first time watcher. Great to have you here, Zach. Bringing in the three first returning boots that are going to join us tonight. We'll bring them in their season order. Actually, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to try and get the genders middled. We'll bring in Holly first. Welcome, Holly. Give me a second. Welcome.
Hello. Hey.
I just said I was going to gush about you, and I'll gush about you more because what a story you had, and we'll get you to talk about it more. But thank you so much for joining us. I really want to hear about what you've taken away from this experience. Next, we'll bring in David. Hi, David. Welcome.
Hey, good evening or good morning, as Zach said, and I said backstage as well before we started.
So excited to have you, David, because on the first season, you could tell you just had this chaotic energy you were willing to bring, and it got snuffed so early, and you got that chance to bring it again. And even though you didn't quite make the merge, that energy post-swap was absolutely exciting and chaotically fun, which is so good to watch. And finally, let me welcome Chiara. I'm just going to switch my hands up here. Welcome, Chiara. Thank you for coming as well. You were the emotional star of this season. Your journey was such a pleasure to watch, particularly as your journey in exile. Every first boot is disappointing, but I'm sure it was so disappointing to see your entire tribe make the merge, other than yourself, in exile, and then come back. So, looking forward to getting into your stories. Would all of you perhaps tell me about what the experience was for you when Kyle and Brian reached out and said, "We've got this concept for a season. We want you to come back." Were you immediately like, yes, or was there any hesitation? Why don't we go start with David, who was in season 1, and then we'll move down the season order.
Look, I was definitely on board. I kept saying, I think I said for the entire day that I filmed on season 4 that I was robbed in season 1, and it was my turn. Well, my turn, 100% for redemption. So I was right ready to get back in it and give it another go. And I think I'd seen season 2 and season 3, and just where they'd taken it from that backyard to that actual real I'm going to call it professional level. It's a privilege. I just immediately knew it was going to be a privilege to be able to play again and be an integral part of the story.
The standard is very high. I don't think anyone denies how high the standard is now for backyard. But I decided I've never watched Survivor New Zealand, and I thought I might watch it because there's a player from Survivor New Zealand appearing on the Australia versus the World season later on this year, and she's on the second season. But I thought, look, I'll watch both seasons. I've never watched them, and man, the production quality of Backyard 4 and 5 is better than New Zealand season 1. And I
think the drama plays out better sometimes.
So it does. All right, Holly, you obviously were from Backyard too. You've appeared in 2 top 5 seasons here. So obviously, whenever you appear on Turns to Gold, how did you feel when they approached you about coming back for this season?
It was an immediate yes for me, both because I was really excited to play season 2, and then I felt like getting voted out within the first hour was a bit disappointing. But I also felt really grateful that I was asked to be back, because I know that so many people want to play Backyard Survivor.
Absolutely. I think that's everyone wants to play Backyard. I applied to be on Backyard and never got on. Everyone wants to be on Backyard. It's the gold standard. I'm gonna you, Chiara, after a first boot story on exile. It felt like it was a tough sled for you there. Did you have any hesitation about coming back, or were you excited?
A little from column A and a little from column B, I would say. I felt sick when I was invited. But
it feels like the kind of thing that just doesn't fall in your lap. And I felt like I owed it to myself, I guess, to go and give it another shot. And I think, like Holly said, like it feels a bit like you missed out on the experience. And so, yeah, I was just really excited to go back and give it another try. But I definitely did have hesitation. And I definitely had hesitation like all the way up to filming day, not just when I was invited. It was scary, man.
Well, what was the goal for all of you coming in? Was it just not be the first boot again? And apologies again to Holly for whom that happened. Was that the goal, or were you looking to be bigger and bolder than that? If you'd just been second out, would that have been satisfactory? I think you said that actually in the season in the confessional, Chiara, that you happy you weren't first again and now you achieved your goal. Was that really how you felt, or was it like I'd really like say to make merge because that's how I get the full experience?
To be honest, I think I just really wanted to make some friends. And like feel like I'd made
friends. Did you not make friends in
Well,
exile?
yeah, I did make friends there. But I wanted to make connections in the game. It's different.
Yeah.
I wanted to make connections in the game and I wanted to feel like I was having the experience. And it wasn't even so much about sort of duration or meeting a certain placement. Obviously, like everything felt like a win as the days went by, but yeah, I didn't really have like a placement goal.
I understand what you're saying, and maybe David will share a similar view here to what I'm about to suggest. The season that I played in Melbourne, for those that haven't watched, I made the jury and got voted out second into the jury. But in my pre-jury, my tribes won every challenge. So we won 6 challenges in a row. I got to merge. I had no numbers and no agency, and I got voted out. And as much as I love that experience, and I'm not comparing myself to your experience as always a first boot, but I didn't really get to play. Like I didn't vote anyone out. I didn't deceive anyone. I didn't play. Like I just did nothing and then won challenges and got booted. And yeah, I'm very happy that I made the jury, of course, but I wasn't able to play the game. It seemed like this time, David, what you were trying to do the most was make sure you got to play, even if it was chaos, even if it didn't work out, you played hard from the get-go.
Yeah, it definitely. Like I think again, the game was so much real than the season that I filmed in its feel and in its vibe from the very get go. So I had to give it I guess all I had as well, and having just seeing how serious some people take it and just the passion and just what you can actually achieve. If you really get into the environment and get into the game. So yeah, I just went into it, head first, and probably, yeah, I guess as the day went through, a bit of heat stroke, not enough food. Maybe I just wasn't thinking as well as I could have been, because I definitely I watched some of the footage back yesterday just in preparation for this, and I was like, God, like what are you doing? I had that feeling in my chest, that nervous feeling. It's like, God, man, what are you doing? But no, yeah, I think I agree to a certain degree. We won a few challenges at the beginning there, and you feel good. And it was I was definitely aware that it's like, look, this isn't going to be sunshine and rainbows the whole time. I've got to lock in and make a plan for when it does turn bad.
And we'll come back to the day that you played and the games that you played. Someone, Wesley, is asking if you're single. I don't know if Wesley's a man. I don't know if that's your particular preference, but you are an attractive man.
We can ignore that.
Yeah, you are attractive. I get where you're coming from. And I say that as a very straight male. Holly, you came on, and obviously you've had a different experience. Did you get any satisfaction? Like, do you wish that Helen had been the first boot, that your tribe had done slightly better in that challenge, so you didn't come back this second time, and it could have been Helen here, because it was very borderline about who was first boot in your original season. Or are you still glad that you came out and played this, even though it didn't work out the way you would have wanted it to?
Oh, well, it made for quite a bang of a first
Gingy.
episode, so yeah, I'm glad it happened.
You're right. It's a bang of an episode. It's an incredible, heart-wrenching experience as a viewer. Like, I can't imagine that there's anyone who's more invested in, let's say you played again. I don't think there'd be anyone in this community more invested in your success because of the emotional journey we all went on with you. And as I've said, you were such, even in the real time, you were such a good sport about it. And the moment where you're in redemption talking about how, well, I could sort of take one for the team here. I can take one for everyone else because I've suffered this before and I know what it's like. Like, I can tell you what, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be saying things like that. I think it speaks to your character and your approach, which I, as I said, I think is incredible. In those moments, you look back at that and think, I handled that really, really well, or do you just never watch this because it's just too painful?
I watched this when it first was aired, but I haven't watched it since.
Fair. Very fair. Well, I can tell you we're still there on that emotional journey with you. All of you I want to talk about now about, you played the first time. Was there experiences and learnings? Did you want to play differently than what you did? Now, I don't think either of you, David probably the most played hard on his first time, but I don't think Chiara or Holly, you really got much of a chance to play in your other first seasons in terms of the vote and in terms of agency around the vote and the way you were able to establish in your tribe. What we discussed a bit on the recap was you were all given the opportunity to pick a tribe, and that could be an advantage or a disadvantage depending on how that went. I'd like to hear from all of you about whether when you were making those choices, and perhaps in the real time, or perhaps you thought later subconsciously, I was perhaps making these decisions, because the game moves very fast when you're there. It's hard to actually plan things in the real moment. But do you think the tribes you picked, were you going for, I want a tribe that's going to win, or were you looking to bring in allies, noting that you had the breakfast that could take you further in the game? How did you all individually approach that? We'll start with you, Chiara, who of course had the most successful tribe pick, with her yellow tribe basically being the dominant force in the entire game.
I was really just looking for people who I could make good connections with. I mean, I kind of was thinking about challenges, but really I was just picking people who I felt really good about. I guess in the first time I played, I felt quite alienated from my tribe and I didn't feel all that comfortable around them. And so it was just important to me to pick people who I felt like I did feel connected to off the bat. So I was just following my intuition in that way, really.
What about yourself, David? You chose a relatively strong tribe, but also, I think, now I'm trying to remember the order of the picks. Chiara got Joe last. David, did you get Julie last, or did you pick her earlier in the process?
No, I think Julie. Yeah, I think Julie was the last pick, and I think my priority around the people I picked came down to I think it was the people who I'd built rapport with, or that I'd had interaction with at the breakfast, and then trying to round out any of the the rest of the group with a diverse sort of people that were going to be able to be good at challenges, but also in the end we sit there all day when we're not filming, so to have some people around that we could have a bit of a vibe and as Chiara said earlier, make some friends while we're there filming all day. And I definitely think overall it was, there's no single pick that I regret at all. They're a great team, and watching back, it was again watching back last night, it was really fun to remember some of those. Some of those moments with those people, and probably haven't seen any of those people for a long time, but you still feel in a way really close to them. Just going through what we went through for a day.
That's absolutely. If anyone who's watching hasn't played one of these LRGs, this is absolutely the case. You wouldn't believe the relationships and bonds you can build with people that you play with only for a 2-day period of time. It makes you realize why it's so difficult on the real Survivor when they spend a month with someone to then make a move on them or whatever. Very, very difficult. So you do build these connections, and I agree with that. David, a couple of interesting choices that you made. One choice, at the breakfast, you immediately approached Michael, having known him in a previous life. And we hear in the confessional that he's not having a bar of that. He's not interested in working with you one bit. Now, obviously, you didn't pick him. Did you pick up that he was not buying what you were selling at the breakfast?
I wouldn't be able to remember, to be honest. But I'd say I was comfortable saying hello to Michael and how's it going. But I think it would have been best and hope to be best that maybe we were kept separate for the game to see just how it played out, and then if we wanted to come together with our shared connection later on in the game, then yes. But it'd be rude not to say hello to somebody. That was probably my primary thought. Say hello to somebody I know. And
yes.
Looking back, it's like, maybe I should have played it cool. I think he actually said that. Play it cool, Dave.
Yes. and then he threw you on the bus later at the swap. I know David, we need to get rid of him. Holly, your tribe, which you picked, obviously ended up not being particularly a great outcome for you. And we were talking about on the deep dive that your tribe, I think, objectively was, probably the strongest looking tribe. I think if you were just picking based on who's going to bring us success in challenges, you never know what the challenge is going to be. But, you didn't have any of the people that were older than the others. I'm not saying anyone's old, but the ones that were older than the others. It was a group of young, fit-looking people that you would think excelled. But perhaps, unfortunately, you drafted a bunch of snakes. Do you have a lot of regret about who you drafted? Or she's still here?
I'm still here, but you keep cutting out a lot. So basically everything that you just said, I didn't hear.
Oh, okay. Am I okay for you, David and Chiara? Can you
I
hear me
think
fine,
so.
David?
It's dropped in and out a little bit, but it hasn't. It's all right.
Holly, I think maybe if you leave and come back, it might get better. We'll just try that. In the meantime, thanks, Holly. In the meantime, while David, there's one thing that I'd never do if I were to play Survivor, and it's because I think of myself as a big, bold player who likes a bit of chaos and a bit of strategy. And I don't want to be compared to the biggest, boldest character who likes strategy. So as much as I love him and own numerous Red Sox caps, I would not walk onto a game of Survivor wearing a blue Boston Red Sox cap. What was the thought behind doing that on your next time around?
It was exactly the number one. Look, it was a hat that I'd owned and I regularly wore. But I do remember making some comments during the filming that I was channeling a bit of Boston Rob with my Red Sox cap. So it was a little bit of a tribute to somebody that I grew up watching on Real Survivor, Survivor Australia. He went to court from memory for some stuff that went down the Barrier Reef. And despite that, still love him. So no, it was definitely a call out to Boston Rob.
Well, it's bold to do it, but you already had a target on you, I suppose. It's the way it is. Chiara, okay, let's see if we can get Holly back in now. Switching you all around, sorry. Holly, is that better now? We've got some better coverage at all?
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Doesn't seem so. Okay. I was just saying before that when we're talking about the
you're on
draft,
again.
you were given the opportunity, obviously. No good?
It's kind of like as soon as you start to be important, you're gone.
Okay. I'll just try and go through. You could try on your phone potentially. That often can sometimes be better. While we try and work that through, David, well, I'll talk about this when hopefully Holly's back. Chiara, obviously your result was a dream come true. Absolutely dominated the game. I think it's a well-known convention through post-game discussions that had you made it to the final three against any of those people, and potentially anyone that was reasonably in the jury portion of the game, that you would have won the game. How was it coming off such a high, where you had played such a strong social game that still seemed very true to the person you were, but a game that the jury respected and respected you so much that you would have won had you not been such an incredibly huge threat?
How did I feel?
Yeah, how did you feel? Good, besides good.
Good.
Really good.
No, I just felt amazing. I didn't have any regrets, really. And that is, I mean, as people who've played, like, you know what it's like to sit there for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. The first time I played, I got booted first, and I still sat there for weeks replaying that one round of Backyard Survivor. And so it was actually a pretty big gift
I would say there was
to
probably
not have
nothing that pressure. Well, there's nothing you could have done in that season of Backyard Survivor as well. Like, you can play as many what ifs as you like. I don't think there's anything you could have done differently. A group of people got together, they made a decision.
Yeah, essentially, like, I could have won the challenge.
Maybe somehow, yeah. Or somehow it's Kath instead of you. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, there are like a few small what ifs about Sal, I guess, but I don't know. It just didn't feel as heavy. It just did not feel as heavy this time, and I didn't find myself ruminating in the same way.
Yeah, well, I understand that, David. You obviously didn't do as well as Chiara. Did you feel like you had a lot of regrets, or did you come out of this time just feeling content with the experience, notwithstanding that you perhaps weren't able to make the jury?
Look, I thoroughly enjoyed the day. I don't think I had any regrets. Again, definitely watching it back when you watch it on the television, you think, oh, if I'd done this, had I known this conversation happened, or if I'd got close to this person. But yeah, straight as I came out of it, no, I was pretty happy.
And did you have regrets from Backyard 1, or was Backyard 1 such a, no one knew what this community was going to be when that was done? It's just a fun day. It was partying, booze. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I remember being disappointed. And then, I was lucky enough that it was a bit of a party vibe, in the backyard there. So I think I just, I helped out. I helped set up some challenges. I probably had a few beers and, and then I got called back for the eating challenge. So, no, not too much regret. I probably regret some of the things that I ate in that challenge. That was horrendous. But look, I almost got back in. So, I had to give it my all there.
But you're probably glad that Rhiannon beat you in that challenge. Because if you'd won, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. You wouldn't have got a chance to play on Backyard 4, which obviously was a completely different.
That's very true.
Happier experience.
When one door closes, another door opens. Yeah.
If you could eat Weet-Bix better, you wouldn't be sitting right here. So I think that, you might have been sad at the time, but you just would have gone in a revolving door just like Rhiannon did. And so, you got this experience instead. So she did you a favor by beating you at that challenge. You seem disappointed.
No, true. I haven't thought of it like that. Yeah. Probably
Holly,
feeling
how's
ill
it
more
going
than
now? Is it
disappointed.
better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. Okay, so my question to you when we were talking about the drafting, you drafted a very strong tribe. Your tribe, on paper, looked like they could win a lot of challenges. Unfortunately, though, for you, you drafted a bunch of snakes. Do you have a lot of regrets about the snake pit that you drafted? Josh really wants to hear the answer to this question. One of the said snakes.
Well, I guess if I didn't pick that tribe, they wouldn't have voted me out. So there's regret there. But just firstly, that breakfast situation, that whole thing, blacked out, absolute nightmare for me. I have never thrived in a situation where I'm put with a whole bunch of new people and have to make friends. I don't think I made any connection with anybody except for maybe Matt C. Yeah.
And Matt C was your first pick. You already knew Matt C from perhaps some YouTube commentary he'd left on prior seasons. I met Matt C. He's a lovely guy. He's also incredibly fit. Like, it's a no-brainer first pick. I think you never regret making that decision.
Yeah, and
How
then
did
the
it
rest of the tribe,
feel?
the rest of the tribe just looked like a nice bunch of people. They looked like they could win the first challenge,
Unfortunately,
and then maybe I wouldn't get voted out.
I think it's a sensible strategy. When you watched it back, and I know it was a long time, you only watched it one time. Josh is there blaming you for the challenge in his confessional because you didn't do your bit, which was admittedly one of the easier bits, as quickly as everyone else. Meanwhile, not his leg issue notwithstanding, he really failed in the rope management. It wasn't his bad knee that cost him the balance, the jumping beam. It was that he really got tangled up. I don't know if you recall him trying to put it on you for Paul, because you didn't do badly in the challenge. Do you recall that confessional from Josh?
I do, but I'm not going to hold him to what he said when he thought he was in trouble.
Yes, and he did worry about that. I would say the biggest surprise, I understand. I don't actually understand why the four of them didn't vote out Ken, and obviously that would have been a bad outcome potentially for you, Holly, or maybe if Ken was, he might have voted for Josh. He voted for who he voted for, so he voted for you. So you might have got idled out, which would have been probably slightly better of an experience. When you found out that Ken had been gifted an idol by the Blue Tribe that they could give to any member of your tribe, were you as shocked as the viewers, production, Kyle and Brian, everyone else on this planet, that idol had not been given to you?
I have a feeling I only found out while watching the season. And
Okay.
no, I'm not that shocked that it wasn't given to me because of their thinking. Like, why would you vote out Holly first again? Like, it didn't really seem like something they were going to do.
Well, David, you were there in the conversation. We only see a snippet of it about the discussion. Dan is the only one who suggests potentially giving it to Holly on the tape. That's
Dan.
dismissed pretty quickly. You were there in the real time. What was the discussion about whether the idol should be given to Holly or someone else?
I think it was I definitely remember it being shut down pretty quick. As fun as we thought it was, you just didn't think we wouldn't think that would actually happen. That you'd vote out a first boot, or in this case, they'd vote out Holly again. Come on, guys, like have some decency, have some respect. But unfortunately they did. I think that was the joke. It's like there's no way that's going to happen. They'd have to be the worst people on the planet to do something like that. But then look, lo and behold, they went ahead and did that. So it makes for great television. But I don't think any of us ever thought it was even going to be a possibility.
I think that's realistic, though you probably didn't think through that giving it to Ken gave him the power of who he voted out. I actually think that if Ken was thinking about the situation, he probably shouldn't have voted for. If he thought he was getting the votes, he shouldn't have voted for Holly. But I guess he didn't think he was getting the votes. He was just being safe. You play difficult situation. I think that's a fair position, David. I also think that maybe Fu was trying to play a bit more like. I think Fu is a very, very cerebral player and very, very smart. And I think she's probably, we could do this, which is just like simple and safe and boring, or we can like mastermind an outcome here where they vote out Rachel, or they vote out Michael or someone just because 6 people, it's an idol, it's messy. No, thank you for that insight, David. I think that's really, really valuable. I also bring up this comment from Josh who says, "Thank you, Holly. Nothing but respect for you. And after the game, I think we've gotten along crewing." He's got lots of love hearts there. He's got a lot of love for you. He says he doesn't feel bad, though. He hasn't said it now, but he often says in the comments he does not feel bad or regret this decision.
Oh, that's fine.
The going to Redemption, which both David and you, Holly, went to, which is obviously incredible and integral part of the game. When you got there, did you feel defeated, or did you feel like I'm gonna win this and I'm gonna come back? Immediately, Holly, you would have had to win a lot of challenges. David, I think you were there for. We'll talk about your free pass in a moment. Holly, did you get there thinking that, fuck these guys, I'm going to win my way back in? Or did you feel like challenges aren't my thing? I know personally that I'm not going to win a bunch of individual challenges. I just don't have that skill set.
Nah, I didn't want to be there. I just wanted the next few people to be voted out so we could hurry up and do the challenge, so I could lose the challenge and then I could go home. I didn't want to be there anymore.
That's fair. And David, yourself, am I correct? You got a free pass somehow. But that was postulated on the deep dive last week that maybe production were handing out things to make sure that you stayed in the game and didn't, that you got the advantage they wanted to get. I'm of course joking about that. You found the advantage, right? And how excited were you when you found that? And then going into that final challenge with Dan. Now, Dan looks like he's just a slightly older version of you. He's fit, he's healthy, and of course you've got the beast Valentina, who you haven't seen what she's done, but she's dominated obviously because she got voted out yonks ago. Did you come into that thinking, I'm going to win this, or it's over? Where was your mindset at your last chance there in Redemption?
I actually remember getting to Redemption and you had Val and Ken there, who were just so friendly and so welcoming, and it was all that stress and all that that sort of panic that I'd been living and living with and fostering for the last 2 or 3 hours of that day. The decision had been made, and it was almost that sense of redemption for me was a sense of relief at the beginning. Just to hang out and chat with 2 other people who had a completely different day to me, albeit probably is more stressful than my day actually. But then even more relief to luck of the draw, pull the black buff and not have to play that that first challenge. And then the final challenge, it's like that was a full on. I can't remember how long it took. It felt like it took just an eternity. But it was a nonstop. To have a team of 6 down to a team of 1 to do all those challenges was just huge. And it really came down to the wire in the end there between the 3 of us. And it was just I think the best person won. and definitely deserved to win from what I learned about from watching back all the various redemption challenges.
Chiara, you didn't have to face redemption. You obviously were able to make it to the merge. And, from there, your game really shines. Like most people that do very well, the game shines at that next phase in the merge. Part of why you were successful is that the original Yellows who you drafted were able to come back together and stick together. Most notably, Valentina, who you'd all savagely voted out, and bring her back into the fold. I felt watching that Matt B had a lot of influence on that. But there's also the thought that you and Joe probably were a factor there, particularly managing her paranoia about Casper. Do you recall feeling that was critical, rebuilding that relationship with Val? Did you use your experience of knowing what it's like to be voted out in there and face a redemption challenge? How did you go about rebuilding those bonds?
I think I just wanted to really have some human moments with her and relate to her about what it feels like to be voted out in that way. I'm not sure that I did feel that it was totally vital to have her on side, if I'm honest, but it meant something to me to kind of like have that repair with her and to have her feel like someone really truly related to her, because I do know what it feels like. Yeah.
And we talked before, and I think you mentioned it briefly, about whether you have no regrets. That maybe there's some moves you could have made on Sal, maybe at the final 5, maybe at the final 6. Was there though? Do you have firstly, do you remain good friends with your bestie Joe to this day?
I haven't spoken to her in a while, but we caught up a few times since filming.
Well, that's very interesting because look, you watch the show and Joe's pretty honest to herself that she's drawing dead a little bit going into that final tribal council. She's aware of how she's perceived and probably doesn't have a chance at winning the game. And I think that's a fair estimate. And obviously was true. She could have stuck with you on a 2-2. Like she wasn't going to beat Salvador or Val. She's not going to beat you probably, but like you guys put together from the moment the game began for the whole game. Why not give you a chance at a challenge? Because voting you out doesn't do anything for her. Did you think about that in the reflection, perhaps, or in the real time?
Yeah, I guess I do wish that I had been more that I had appealed to Joe more in the moment. It does feel like you're in such a time crunch. It's hard to know how much time I would have realistically had to kind of smooth talk the people I was with, but that probably was something that I reflected on a lot afterwards, was just leaving some things unsaid, and maybe not kind of actually playing to what Joe was all about. She had that real loyalty mentality and things like that. I feel like I could have maybe like Tony'd her a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I definitely could have pulled on her heartstrings a lot more and appealed to her a lot more, but it was a very emotional, raw time in the game, when she was considering just pulling herself out. So I think, there was actually a lot going on.
I guess that's exactly right. I think that's a good point. She was talking about just I'll just go and let the 3 of you do it, and then everyone's giving her the encouragement that she should stay on. That anything can happen in Final Tribal Council. I think that's all true, and I don't think she should have just quit. But equally, then for you to come over, that probably made it harder, because I also don't think you're the sort of person that would easily feel good about manipulating someone or manipulating someone emotionally at all, even though that sometimes is the game. And you had a relationship with her, so she was already vulnerable, which really made it harder for you to pull on the heartstrings. Where if she was a bit more in I don't know what I'm going to do here, Chiara, what should I do? And you're like, just put me in a challenge. She'd be probably like, oh yeah, okay. But you were helping her and connecting with her because of what you'd done together all day.
Yeah, and I think for me, like, I did bring a lot of like emotional baggage into the game, and like I really cared about the people I was with. I'm surprised by how much of an effect all of that had on me and my decision making in that later phase. And I think, like David said earlier, like I'm pretty sure I had sunstroke and was completely cooked. Yeah, 2 days in, I think it was almost 40 degrees both days.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was.
David, you probably got to play. Yeah, sorry, on that point, I think David's probably got to play the most. I haven't done a weather check, and maybe we'll check with Eden, who's got some comments I'll put up here. He's the stats master of LRGs. He runs the wiki, if you're not familiar. But I don't think anyone's played in more hours of heat than you have, David, because your
really?
entire seasons. Well, they've always been like blistering.
40 degrees
Backyard
February
one was
days, yeah.
blistering. Eden's here saying to you, Holly in this little caps. Holly, Rob, they were rotten for voting you out. Obviously, he's just joined. We have talked to this to some level, Eden. But then he says, actually, all of you are Rob. I loved watching you all. So, and I think we all loved watching you all. I think, as I said, it takes a lot to, and I can only, sympathize? I can only try and imagine what it feels like to go on one of these things, to be the first boot, and then to remain positive and in the community. And I don't think anyone in the community looks disparagingly on people that were voted out first. You don't care. It's the game. But I think speaking to people who have been voted out first, they find it tough. No one looks down on them, but they perhaps look down on themselves, or they really, whatever the reasons for it, even if it was outside their control or not, they just have a struggle with it. And so I get why some people really struggle to become part of the community. But all three of you became part of the backyard community, had this opportunity to come on again, had wildly different experiences. But as viewers and fans of the show and of the community, it was so great to watch all of you have that second chance. And I'm so pleased that all of you were able to do that. I'm sure you were all really pleased you were able to do that. And be so magnificent this time around. We loved the different sort of games all three of you brought on your second time. And, 197 different people have played in the 13 LRGs. But if I think I do the numbers, there's only like 12 or 14 that have played twice. So it's a very, very exclusive group that you're in. It's a very special and exclusive group. And I think it's fantastic that you are part of that. Do any of you have any final words about your experience, first time, second time, and what you reflect on being part of this experience?
I think for
David,
me, it's I'll always say it. I'm really grateful for the opportunity from Brian and Kyle, and I just think that the world and the community and the friendships that they've built, that they've fostered through their the Backyard Survivor series, and all the love and effort and blood and sweat and everything else that's gone into doing this 5 or I think 6 times now. 5 times official. I'm not sure. However many times they've done it.
It's happened 6 times. No one knows anything about 6, so don't talk about 6. If you were there crewing, 6 is a secret.
Shit.
But 5, it exists. That's fine.
Oh, cool. Okay, all right.
Everyone knows it exists. But with no details about players, performance. So that's all a secret. Like, that hasn't been aired. But yeah, 6 times, 5 have been aired.
So yeah, just huge props to Brian and Kyle. Thank you. No, I haven't ruined anything good. But yeah, thanks to the 2 guys. I think everybody's just grateful and appreciative for them and for all the efforts that they put in.
Chiara, do you have any final words about your experience?
Not really, no. I'm really glad I did it. I'm also really, really grateful to Brian and Kyle and all the crew. I had so much fun on the days that I played. And I'm just so proud of the output. I think the season was really well produced. I think One Well was incredible. It's just awesome to see their team grow in what they're making.
And Holly, I started off by saying I'm impressed by any of the first boots that come and help the community, that come on our show, that do an interview, that talk about their experience. But for you, your resilience, your strength to be the Francesca of the Australian LRG community, you'll never be forgotten. And that's one thing that I would personally value. I don't know if that's about you, because it's a statistic that will always be remembered. But I think it's remembered in a positive light because of your perseverance and your strength and the emotional journey we went on with you. Thank you for coming on and being part of it. I'm really, really glad that you were able to. Do you have any final words for us?
Just like what Chiara and David said, like really grateful to be part of the community, both as almost the start of season 2 and season 4, but also in the crewing aspect, like such a tight knit. You just make so many friends, and it's really great. But I also think that we might need to back off Birak. They're not as bad as they're being made out to be. They just had to vote someone out, and it was a game of who doesn't get voted out first. And I'm obviously not very good at that, but they're nice people.
That is a beautiful way to end this interview, Holly, and your story. You're giving redemption to the Birak 4. It's a perfect circle of redemption. Done. You have absolved them of their sins. They are redeemed live on air. Thank you, I'm sure Josh, Rachel, Michael, and Matt C are shedding a tear if they're watching live or if they're listening to this later. Michael's going to be there with his toddler now, trying to listen to this podcast, shedding a tear. Matt C's going to be out on some Spartan race, just listen to this pod casually. He's like, oh my god! And Rachel's there working hard at being a lawyer, still trying to pretend to be a journalist. This just in, Holly's forgiven me. And is that all of them? Yes, and Josh is here live. He's, I'm sure, shedding a tear. I know him. He will be absolutely shedding a tear. That's amazing. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Chiara. Thank you, David. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Now, as I said at the start, go and vote. If you haven't voted in a couple of weeks, we'll be doing that. You guys can vote. You can vote for yourself. You can vote for best pre-merge boot. You can vote for MB, VP, you can vote whatever you want. Everyone can vote. Vote once. But everyone can vote. We'll do that in a couple of weeks. Next week, I have my deep dive with Salvador about his winning game. Looking forward to getting into all of that. And after that week, we have the tea party. Infamous Annabelle will be here, getting all the juicy goss for the season. And joining Annabelle will be the hot take players of the season. We will have, of course, Josh O'Brien. I think that's no surprise. He will be there with bells on. Joining him will be Casper and also Rachel from Birak, not Foo Rachel. Birak Rachel will be there talking about all the exciting goss of the season, and then we will do our coverage with Kyle and Brian talking about the season and crowning the next ORCA. Do you guys have a prediction of who you think might be the ORCA of the season?
I think we all know who the ORCA is.
Who is that? Who is that? Is it you, Holly? I'd vote for you. No, who is the ORCA?
Josh.
Josh? He wants it. He really wants it. But, there's some competition. Casper's a pretty strong contender. I also think Foo. But, we'll have to see what the Congress of the Orcas say. But Chiara thinks Foo. Here we go. It's controversial. We'll get into that. But, again, thank you, Chiara. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, David. Thank you to everyone that was here watching live. I know a lot of people listen after the fact. Thank you to those people that listen and watch after. But we love having you here that can make it live to join in the live commentary. It's always so special. So thank you to you all. We will see you next Wednesday for my deep dive. And until then, have a lovely... I have a catchphrase for the end. I need to come up with one. I'll workshop that. Bye.